The banker saw the poor nurse hugging his daughter in a wheelchair. Then he did this. Richard Anderson was in his office at Mercy General Hospital in New York, signing the last documents for the monthly payment, when something caught his attention through the window. His daughter Emily, just 8 years old, was in the inner garden being tenderly hugged by a nurse he had never seen before. The man felt a strange tightness in his chest as he watched the scene. The nurse, wearing a simple blue uniform, was telling something that made Emily laugh in a way Richard couldn't remember seeing in the past 2 years. The blonde girl, confined to a wheelchair since the accident, seemed genuinely happy in that moment. "Who is that woman?" Richard asked Dr. Michael, the hospital director. "Jennifer Miller, Mr. Anderson, one of our most dedicated nurses. She's worked here for 3 years, and the children adore her." Richard watched for a few more minutes. Jennifer played with Emily, making funny faces and telling stories that made the girl burst into laughter. It deeply unsettled him. How could a stranger bring so much joy to his daughter when he, her own father, could barely get a smile out of her? "I want to speak with that nurse. Now." Jennifer was called into the office, still unaware of the reason. When she saw the elegant man in a dark suit standing before her, she had no idea who he was. "You've been taking care of my daughter Emily," Richard said, getting straight to the point. "Emily Anderson?" Jennifer's eyes widened. "You're her father?" "I am. And I want to understand why my daughter smiles more with you than she does with me." Jennifer sensed the tension in the air. Richard spoke with a coldness that made her uncomfortable. "Sir, I just talked to her during my breaks. Emily is a sweet girl, and—" "How much do you earn a month?" Richard interrupted. "Excuse me?" "Your salary, what is it?" Jennifer hesitated. $3,200, sir." Richard picked up his checkbook. "I'll offer you $20,000 a month to be my daughter's full-time caregiver." Jennifer's eyes widened. It was more than 6 times her current salary. "Mr. Anderson, that's very generous, but I have other patients here at the hospital who need me." "Then leave them. Dedicate yourself only to Emily." "I can't do that. Every child here deserves care and attention." Richard pressed his lips together. He wasn't used to people turning down his offers. "You don't understand. I can double it. $40,000 a month. Sir, it's not about the money. I chose to be a nurse to help as many children as I can, not just one." Jennifer's refusal infuriated Richard. After she left, he immediately called Dr. Michael. "I want Nurse Jennifer Miller transferred to another department, far from pediatrics." "But Mr. Anderson, she's our best professional with children. I fund half this hospital, doctor. Do as I ask." The next day, Jennifer found out she had been transferred to the geriatric wing. When she questioned the reason, she received a vague answer about administrative needs. She knew it had to do with her conversation with the banker. Emily noticed Jennifer's absence right away. All week she asked every nurse who came to care for her. "Where's Aunt Jennifer?" she asked with sad eyes. "She's working in another part of the hospital, sweetheart," the new nurse in charge replied. But Emily wasn't just any child. 2 years in a wheelchair had made her observant and perceptive. She knew something was wrong. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Richard visited Emily 3 times a week, always in a hurry between important meetings. He noticed she was quieter than usual, but chalked it up to the natural adjustment to the hospital. "How are you feeling today, Princess?" he asked, glancing discreetly at his watch. "Daddy, do you know Aunt Jennifer?" "Who?" "The nurse who plays with me. She disappeared." Richard pretended not to know anything. "She probably went to work somewhere else. The nurses here take good care of you, don't they?" Emily just nodded, but Richard could see the sadness in her blue eyes. That night, in his luxurious penthouse on the Upper East Side, Richard tried to focus on company reports, but the image of his sad daughter wouldn't leave his mind. He got up and went to the bar, pouring himself an expensive whiskey. The truth was, Richard hadn't known how to handle Emily since the accident. Seeing his daughter in a wheelchair constantly reminded him of that terrible night 2 years ago. He preferred to focus on work, where he had control over everything, where problems could be solved with money and influence. Meanwhile, Jennifer couldn't get Emily out of her head. During her breaks, she walked through the pediatric wing hallway, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl, but she knew it could cause more trouble. It was Robert, the hospital's night security guard, who gave her an idea. "Nurse Jennifer, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Robert. It's about the girl, Emily. She's been asking about you to everyone. She's really sad." "I know, but I was transferred and... Look, I'm here at night. If you want to stop by quickly to check on her, I can look the other way." Jennifer hesitated. It could cost her job. "Just a few minutes," Robert insisted. "The girl needs you." In the early hours of the morning, Jennifer quietly entered Emily's room. The girl was awake, staring out the window. "Aunt Jennifer," Emily whispered, disbelieving. "Hi, sweetheart." Jennifer approached the bed. "How are you?" "I knew you'd come back." Emily reached out for a hug. Jennifer held her tightly, her heart aching. "Why did you disappear?" Emily asked. "Sometimes grown-ups have to work in different places, honey. But I think about you every day. I think about you too. The other nurses are nice, but they don't tell stories like you do." Jennifer smiled. "How about I tell you a little story now? Very quietly so no one wakes up." Emily nodded eagerly. Jennifer began telling a tale about a brave princess who had amazing adventures even while facing great challenges. Emily listened intently, her eyes shining again. "Aunt Jennifer," Emily whispered when the story ended, "why doesn't my daddy play with me like you do?" The question caught Jennifer off guard. "Your daddy loves you very much, Emily. Sometimes parents just don't know how to show it. But he's always looking at his watch when he visits me, and he gets sad when he looks at my wheelchair." Jennifer felt a lump in her throat. This 8-year-old had noticed something Richard himself might not even realize. "You know what I think?" Jennifer said, choosing her words carefully. "I think your daddy is hurting too. When people hurt a lot, sometimes they don't know how to show love." "Hurting why?" Jennifer hesitated. It wasn't her place to discuss such delicate matters, but Emily's innocent question touched her deeply. "When Mommy left, your daddy was very sad, and seeing you like this makes him sad too. Not because there's anything wrong with you, but because he wishes you could run and play like before." Emily grew thoughtful. "Mommy didn't leave, Aunt Jennifer. She went to heaven the same day as my accident." Jennifer's heart raced. She hadn't known that. Emily had lost her mother in the same accident that left her in a wheelchair. "Do you remember that day, sweetheart?" "A little. We were in the car, me, Mommy and Daddy. It was raining really hard. Then everything went dark." Jennifer hugged Emily tighter. Now she understood why Richard was so distant. He wasn't just dealing with a daughter in a wheelchair, but also the loss of his wife. "Your daddy loves you very much, Emily. Sometimes adults just need time to learn how to handle difficult things." "Do you think he'll learn?" "I'm sure he will." Jennifer stayed with Emily a few more minutes until the girl fell asleep. She left the room with a heavy heart, thinking about everything she'd just learned. Over the following weeks, Jennifer's nighttime visits became routine. Robert always turned a blind eye, and Emily eagerly looked forward to these moments. The girl seemed to be improving emotionally, but during the day with the other nurses she became withdrawn again. Richard began noticing strange changes in Emily's behavior. Some days she seemed happy, others sad, with no clear reason. The nurses couldn't explain it. "Dr. Michael, my daughter has been having sudden mood swings. I want a child psychiatrist to evaluate her." "Of course, Mr. Anderson. I'll arrange it right away." Dr. Catherine Johnson, the child psychiatrist, spoke with Emily for an hour. Afterward, she sought Richard out privately. "Mr. Anderson, may I speak with you?" "Of course, doctor. What did you find?" "Emily is a very bright child and picks up on things adults might think she doesn't understand." "What do you mean?" "She mentioned a nurse named Jennifer who visits her at night. She said she feels happy and safe with this person." Richard felt his blood run cold. "Nurse Jennifer?" "Yes. Emily talked about her a lot during our session. She seems to have formed a very strong emotional bond with her. And what do you recommend?" "That this nurse resumes her care. Healthy emotional connections are essential for a child's recovery after trauma like Emily's." Richard left the appointment unsettled. Jennifer had disobeyed his orders and visited Emily in secret. His first reaction was anger, but something in the psychiatrist's recommendation made him hesitate. That night, he decided to go to the hospital later than usual. He wanted to surprise Emily with a nighttime visit. When he reached her room, he found the door slightly ajar. Approaching quietly, he saw a sight that left him speechless. Jennifer was sitting by Emily's bed, the two whispering together. The nurse held a small book, reading a story and doing different voices for the characters. Emily giggled softly, with a genuine joy Richard hadn't seen in months. And then the princess realized she didn't need legs to be brave, Jennifer was saying. She had something much stronger, a heart full of love and determination. Like the story about Mommy you told me last week, Emily asked. Exactly. Your mommy is still brave through you? Richard stepped back, his heart pounding. Jennifer was telling Emily stories about Sarah, his late wife. How did she know about Sarah? He waited until Jennifer left the room and followed her down the hall. Nurse Miller, he called, making her turn in surprise. Mr. Anderson, I can explain. No need to explain. I want you to leave this hospital now. Please, sir, let me finish my shift. Tomorrow Now, Richard said through clenched teeth. And if I see you here again, I'll make sure you're fired from every hospital in this city. Tears welled in Jennifer's eyes, but she nodded and headed toward the locker room. Richard returned to Emily's room, who was awake. Daddy? She asked, surprised. What time is it? Late, Princess. I came to say goodnight. Aunt Jennifer was here, Emily said with a smile. I know she won't be able to visit you anymore. Emily's smile faded. Why? Because she was breaking the hospital rules. Emily stayed silent for a moment. Daddy, did you send Aunt Jennifer away because she makes me happy? The question hit Richard like a punch to the gut. That's not it, Emily. Yes, it is. You don't like it when I'm happy. Emily, that's not true. Then why do you always leave when I try to talk? Why do you look sad when you see me? Richard sat in the chair beside the bed, unsure how to respond. How could he explain feelings to an 8-year-old that he himself couldn't understand? Daddy, Emily continued, her voice growing weaker. Aunt Jennifer said you love me, but that you're hurting. Is that true? Richard looked into his daughter's blue eyes, so much like Sarah's. For a moment, he wanted to hug her and explain everything. But the weight of the guilt he'd carried for 2 years was too heavy. It's complicated, Princess. Now sleep. He kissed Emily's forehead and left the room, leaving the girl alone with her thoughts. Jennifer left the hospital that night with a broken heart. She knew she had lost not just her job, but also the chance to help Emily. On the bus ride back home to Queens, she thought about everything that had happened over the past months. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Her simple 2-room house felt even smaller that night. Jennifer sat in the tiny kitchen and let herself cry. Not just for losing her job, but for having to abandon Emily when the girl needed her most. The phone rang. It was her sister Jessica, who lived out of town. Jen, how are you? Not great, Jess. I lost my job today. What happened? Jennifer told her sister the whole story, from her first meeting with Richard to their final conversation at the hospital. That man seems to have serious issues to work through, Jessica remarked. But you did the right thing, Jen. That girl needed you. But now she'll be alone again and I need a job. You'll find another one. Good nurses like you are rare. Jennifer spent the night awake, thinking about Emily and wondering how the girl was feeling. At the hospital, Emily couldn't sleep either. She understood perfectly what had happened. Her father had found out about Jennifer's visits and sent her away. The girl felt guilty for mentioning the visits to the psychiatrist. The next morning, when the new nurse came to care for her, Emily refused to speak. She didn't answer questions, wouldn't eat, and turned her face to the wall. Emily, you need to take your medicine, the nurse insisted. But Emily didn't react. It was as if she had completely shut herself off from the world. Dr. Michael was called to assess the situation. After examining Emily, he immediately called Richard. Mr. Anderson, I need you to come to the hospital urgently. What happened? Emily is showing signs of selective mutism. She refuses to speak, eat, or interact with anyone. Richard cancelled all his meetings for the day and rushed to the hospital. When he saw Emily, his chest tightened. The girl was turned toward the wall, eyes closed, completely ignoring his presence. "Emily, Daddy's here." No reaction. "Princess, are you okay?" Emily kept her back to him. Dr. Michael pulled Richard out of the room. "Mr. Anderson, I need to ask, has there been any change in Emily's routine recently?" Richard hesitated. "The nurse who visited her at night was let go." "Jennifer Miller?" "Yes." Dr. Michael sighed. "Sir, with all due respect, I think we made a mistake. Emily formed a very strong bond with Nurse Jennifer. Separating them so abruptly may have caused this psychological trauma. She was disobeying my orders. I understand your position, but now we need to think of Emily's well-being. She could fall into severe depression if this continues." Richard spent the entire day at the hospital, unsuccessfully trying to get Emily to respond. The girl seemed completely disconnected from the world around her. That night, desperate, he made a decision his pride had tried to stop. He picked up the phone and called the hospital's Human Resources Department. "I need Nurse Jennifer Miller's phone number." "Sir, she was dismissed yesterday." "I know. I need her number." Jennifer was preparing dinner when the phone rang. She didn't recognize the number. "Hello? Nurse Jennifer, this is Richard Anderson." Jennifer nearly dropped the phone. "Mr. Anderson, I need you to come to the hospital. It's about Emily." "Sir, you fired me yesterday. Please." Richard's voice sounded different, more vulnerable. "My daughter isn't well. She needs you." Jennifer felt her heart race. "What happened to her?" "She hasn't spoken, eaten, or reacted to anything since this morning. The doctors say it might be related to your departure." Jennifer didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way." She took the first bus to the hospital. When she arrived, she found Richard pacing nervously in the pediatric ward hallway. He looked like he'd aged years in just one day. "How is she?" Jennifer asked. "The same as this morning. No reaction at all." Jennifer entered Emily's room. The girl was exactly as Richard had described. Jennifer approached slowly and sat in the chair beside the bed. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly. Emily opened her eyes slowly and turned her head. When she saw Jennifer, her pupils widened with emotion. "Aunt Jennifer," she whispered. "I'm here, darling." Emily reached out, and Jennifer hugged her. The girl began to cry quietly. "I thought you were gone forever," Emily sobbed. "No, my love. I'm right here." Richard watched from the doorway, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. How had he been so blind? Jennifer wasn't a threat to his relationship with Emily. She was exactly what the girl needed. "Aunt Jennifer," Emily whispered. "Daddy told me to be quiet because I talked about our conversations." Jennifer looked at Richard, who lowered his head in shame. "That's not what happened, sweetheart. There was a misunderstanding between the adults, but everything's fine now." "Will you stay with me?" Jennifer glanced again at Richard, who nodded discreetly. "Yes, my love. I'll stay with you." Emily smiled for the first time in 2 days. "Can I tell you what happened today? A new nurse gave me bad medicine." "Of course, tell me everything." Richard left the room to speak with Dr. Michael. "Doctor, I want Jennifer Miller rehired immediately." "Mr. Anderson, she was dismissed for insubordination." "I was wrong. She was only caring for my daughter. I want her back in the pediatric ward and, if possible, dedicating more time specifically to Emily." "Of course, sir. I'll arrange the paperwork tomorrow morning." When Richard returned to the room, he found Emily excitedly telling Jennifer about a drawing she'd made during the week. The transformation was remarkable. "Emily," Richard called as he entered. "How are you feeling?" "Better, Daddy. Aunt Jennifer came back." "I can see that. How about we have dinner together tonight? I can ask them to bring dinner here to the room." Emily looked surprised. They had never eaten dinner together at the hospital. "Really, Daddy? Really? And Nurse Jennifer can stay too if she wants." Jennifer was taken aback by the invitation, but Emily clapped excitedly. "Yes, please, it'll be like a party." During dinner, Richard observed the interaction between Jennifer and Emily. The nurse had a special way of talking to children, making even broccoli seem interesting. Emily laughed and told stories, showing a side of herself Richard had forgotten existed. "Aunt Jennifer," Emily said during dessert, "tell Daddy the princess story too." "What story is that?" Richard asked. "The one about the brave princess who didn't need legs to be strong," Emily explained. Jennifer blushed slightly. "It's just a little tale I make up for the kids." "Tell it," Richard urged. "I'd like to hear it." Jennifer glanced at Emily, who gave her an encouraging nod, and she began. It was a simple story about a princess who faced challenges not with physical strength, but with courage, kindness, and intelligence. Richard realized it was a subtle metaphor for Emily herself. "And how does the story end?" Richard asked when Jennifer paused. "The princess discovers her true power wasn't in her legs, but in the love she inspired in everyone around her. And with that love, she transformed not just her own life, but the entire kingdom." Emily clapped. "It's my favorite story." After Emily fell asleep, Richard asked to speak with Jennifer in the hallway. "Nurse Miller." "Jennifer, I owe you an apology." "Mr. Anderson, please let me speak. I was wrong, completely wrong. You were only looking after my daughter, and I misunderstood your intentions." Jennifer sighed. "Sir, I understand your concern. Emily is your daughter and you want to protect her. But she didn't need protection from you, she needed you." Richard hesitated, struggling to find the right words. "Do you know how Emily ended up in a wheelchair? She told me there was an accident and that your wife, Sarah, my wife Sarah, she was in the car with me and Emily that day. It was raining hard, and I was driving too fast to pick Emily up from school. I lost control of the car." Jennifer saw the pain in Richard's eyes and felt her heart tighten. Sarah didn't survive her injuries. Emily was paralyzed from the waist down, and I was left with the guilt. "Mr. Anderson, I look at Emily and see what I took from her. Her legs, the ability to run, to play like a normal child. And I see Sarah, whom she'll never know." "But Emily still has you," Jennifer said softly. "Does she? I can barely stay in the same room with her without remembering that day, without feeling responsible for all her pain." Jennifer then understood why Richard was so distant with Emily. It wasn't a lack of love. It was too much guilt. "Mr. Anderson, may I say something?" Richard nodded. "Emily told me she remembers the day of the accident. Do you know what she said?" "What?" "That she remembers you crying beside her in the hospital, holding her hand and begging her to be okay. She said she never felt more loved than in that moment." Richard's eyes welled up. "Emily doesn't need legs to be happy, Mr. Anderson. She needs her father, his love. She's in a wheelchair, but that doesn't define who she is." "How can you see that so clearly when I can't?" Jennifer hesitated before answering. "Because I lost a daughter too, Mr. Anderson." Richard looked at her, stunned. 5 years ago, she had leukemia. I spent 2 years watching her fight, watching her smile, even on the worst days. When she left, I thought I'd never be able to care for children again. But you kept working as a pediatric nurse. Because I realized every child I care for is a chance to honor my daughter's memory. And when I see Emily, I see the same strength my Olivia had, the same will to live even in the face of difficulties." Richard Anderson fell silent, processing everything Jennifer Miller had shared. "Is that why you understand Emily in a way I can't?" "Perhaps. But you're her father, Mr. Anderson. You have something I'll never have. The chance to be present every day of her life, to watch her grow, to be part of her story. I don't know if I can do that. Will you try, for Emily?" Richard looked out the hallway window at the garden where he'd first seen Jennifer and Emily together. "Would you help me? Not as an employee, but as someone who understands what Emily needs." "Of course," Jennifer replied without hesitation. From that day on, the hospital routine changed completely. Jennifer was officially assigned as Emily's primary nurse, but her role expanded far beyond basic medical care. She became a bridge between father and daughter, helping Richard understand Emily's emotional needs. In the early days, Richard only observed Emily's physical therapy sessions. Jennifer encouraged him to participate. "Why don't you help Emily with her arm exercises today?" she suggested. I don't know how to do it right. She just needs you to be there. We'll teach you the rest. Gradually, Richard began spending more time with Emily. Jennifer showed him games they could play together, stories he could tell, ways to connect with his daughter. "Daddy," Emily said during one session, "do you want to hear the song Aunt Jennifer taught me?" "Of course, Princess." Emily sang a simple children's song with such enthusiasm that Richard felt his heart warm. When she finished, he clapped genuinely. "That was beautiful. Where did you learn it?" "Aunt Jennifer taught me. She said her daughter loved this song." Richard looked at Jennifer, who smiled sadly. "Do you have other songs to teach me?" Richard asked Emily. "Yes, Aunt Jennifer knows lots." Over the following weeks, Richard began discovering aspects of Emily's personality he'd missed in the past 2 years. She was creative, loved drawing and making up stories. She was observant and smart, asking questions that surprised adults. Most of all, she was an affectionate girl who just wanted her father's attention and love. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. One day, Emily asked a question that caught Richard off guard. "Daddy, can you tell me about Mommy?" Richard's chest tightened. It was the subject he avoided most. "What do you want to know, Princess?" "What was she like?" "Aunt Jennifer told me she was brave like me, but I want to hear you talk about her." Richard looked at Jennifer, who gave an encouraging nod. "Your mother was the most special person I ever knew. She had a smile that could light up any room." "Like my smile?" Emily asked. "Exactly like yours. You got that from her." Emily beamed. "What else?" "She loved to sing. She sang to you every night before bed." "Do you remember the songs?" Richard hesitated. "I think so." "Can you sing one for me?" Nervous, but seeing Emily's eager eyes, Richard began humming a song Sarah always sang. His voice trembled, but Emily listened raptly. "Did Mommy have a pretty voice like yours?" Emily asked when he finished. "Much prettier than mine," Richard smiled. "She loved me? More than anything in the world, and she still loves you, from wherever she is." Emily grew thoughtful for a moment. "Daddy, do you think Mommy would be sad to see me in a wheelchair?" The question struck Richard like lightning. "Why do you ask that?" "Because sometimes I think you look sad when you look at me." Richard felt his eyes well up. "Emily, I'm not sad because you're in a wheelchair. I'm sad because I'm afraid I'm not a good enough father for you." "But you are a good dad, Daddy." "Not always, Princess. Sometimes Daddy makes a lot of mistakes." "Everyone makes mistakes," Emily said with the wisdom of a child. "Aunt Jennifer taught me that what matters is trying to be better the next day." Richard looked at Jennifer, who was watching the conversation with tears in her eyes. "Aunt Jennifer is very wise," Richard said. "She is. She teaches me so many things. But now you're teaching me too, like singing Mommy's songs." That night, Richard stayed at Mercy General Hospital until late. After Emily fell asleep, he and Jennifer talked in the garden. "Thank you," Richard said. "For what?" "For helping me find my daughter again, and for helping me find myself. You were always there, Mr. Anderson, just hidden behind the pain." "Richard, you can call me Richard." Jennifer smiled. "Richard, and you can just call me Jennifer." "Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Do you have pictures of your daughter, Olivia?" Jennifer was surprised by the question, but took her phone out of her pocket and showed him a photo. It was a girl about 6 years old, bald from leukemia treatment, but with a radiant smile. "She was beautiful," Richard said. "She was, and very brave, just like Emily." "Do you think they would have gotten along, Olivia and Emily?" "I'm sure they would have. Olivia loved meeting new people and making up games. Emily does too. Maybe that's why the two of you connected so well," Jennifer smiled. "Maybe." At that moment, Richard made a decision he'd been considering for days. "Jennifer, I want to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "I want you to be more than Emily's nurse. I want you to be our friend, our family." Jennifer was speechless. I'm not talking about a work contract or salary. I'm talking about being part of Emily's life, and mine too. Richard, Emily adores you, and I've learned more about being a father in these last few weeks than in the past 2 years. All thanks to you. I'd be honored to be part of your lives, Jennifer replied, moved. Then it's settled. You'll teach us how to be a family again. From that day on, the dynamic between the three of them changed even more. Jennifer became part of Richard and Emily's daily routine. She visited them not just during work hours, but also on weekends. She taught Richard how to play simple games with Emily, how to talk about things that interested her, and how to show affection in ways she could understand. Emily began showing significant improvement in her emotional state. Her physical therapist noticed she was more motivated during exercises. Emily's different, the therapist remarked to Jennifer. More lively, more engaged. She's been getting a lot of love lately, Jennifer replied. It makes all the difference. Children who feel loved and supported always respond better to treatment. One Saturday afternoon, Richard got a surprise. He arrived at the hospital to pick up Emily for an outing when he found her trying to stand up from her wheelchair with Jennifer's help. "What's going on here?" he asked, concerned. "Daddy!" Emily shouted excitedly. "Look!" With great effort and Jennifer's support, Emily managed to stand for a few seconds before sitting back down. "How is this possible?" Richard asked, amazed. "The physical therapist said that some people with injuries like Emily's can partially regain movement," explained Jennifer. "It's not guaranteed, but Emily has shown small improvements." "Does that mean she might walk again?" "We don't know yet. She might be able to stand with support, or maybe take a few steps, or she might not progress beyond that. The important thing is not to set expectations too high." Emily looked at her father with bright eyes. "Daddy, even if I never walk again, it's okay. I'm happy just like this." Richard knelt beside Emily's wheelchair and hugged her tightly. "I'm happy too, Princess, just the way you are." It was the first time Richard had said that, and truly meant it. Over the months, his bond with Emily had grown immensely. They created their own traditions. Every Thursday was pizza night at the hospital, where Richard brought pizza for dinner with Emily and Jennifer. Saturdays were adventure days, when Richard took Emily on outings around the city to wheelchair-accessible places. Jennifer joined many of these trips, always finding ways to make each experience special for Emily. She knew parks with adapted play equipment, accessible museums, and movie theaters with wheelchair spaces. "Aunt Jennifer," Emily said during a zoo visit, "thank you for teaching my daddy how to play with me." "What do you mean?" "Before you came, Daddy only knew how to talk about work. Now he tells stories, sings songs, and makes funny faces like you." Jennifer laughed. "Your daddy always knew how to do those things, Emily, he just forgot." "Did you help him remember?" "Actually, you did. You showed him how to be a good dad." Emily smiled. "The three of us are a good family, aren't we?" The word family echoed in Jennifer's mind. She really had become part of Richard and Emily's family in a way she never imagined possible. One afternoon, Richard received an unexpected call. It was Sarah's mother, Mrs. Catherine, Emily's grandmother. "Richard, we need to talk," said the tense voice on the phone. "Of course, Mrs. Catherine. About what?" "About Emily. I heard there's a nurse taking care of her." "Yes, Jennifer. She's been wonderful with Emily. I need to meet this woman. Can I come to the hospital tomorrow?" Richard hesitated. Mrs. Catherine had always been difficult, highly critical of his decisions regarding Emily. "Of course you can come." The next day, Mrs. Catherine arrived at the hospital dressed elegantly, her expression stern. Richard met her in the lobby. "Where's Emily?" she asked without preamble. "In her room, doing physical therapy with Jennifer." When they entered the room, they found Emily laughing loudly as Jennifer helped her with strengthening exercises. The two were singing a silly song to make the exercises more fun. "Emily," Mrs. Catherine called. "Grandma!" Emily stopped laughing immediately, growing serious. Mrs. Catherine studied Jennifer with a critical gaze. "So you're the famous nurse?" "I'm Jennifer Miller," Jennifer replied politely. "You must be Emily's grandmother." "I'm Catherine Brooks, Sarah's mother." The tension in the air was palpable. Emily noticed and grew uneasy. Grandma, Aunt Jennifer is really nice. She teaches me games and stories. I'm sure, Mrs. Catherine replied coolly. Richard stepped in. Mother Catherine, why don't we talk outside? I'd rather stay here and see how my granddaughter is being treated. Jennifer felt uncomfortable but continued Emily's exercises. Mrs. Catherine watched every move with a critical eye. Grandma, Emily said after a few minutes, why do you look so mad? I'm not mad, sweetheart. I'm just worried about you. Worried about what? I'm happy. That's what I need to discuss with your father. After the physical therapy session, Mrs. Catherine asked to speak with Richard in private. Jennifer offered to leave, but Richard asked her to stay. Catherine, what's troubling you? Richard asked. Richard, this nurse is getting too close to Emily. That's not normal. Normal for whom? Emily is happy. She's making progress. But how well do you really know this woman? Do you know about her life, her intentions? Richard felt anger rising inside him. Mrs. Catherine, Jennifer is an excellent professional and a wonderful person. Richard, you're being naive. Women like her always have ulterior motives when they get close to wealthy men. Jennifer felt as if she'd been slapped in the face. Excuse me, she said, standing up to leave. Don't go, Richard pleaded. Catherine, you're being completely unfair. Unfair? Richard, this woman is replacing my daughter's place in Emily's life. No one can replace Sarah, Richard shouted, losing his patience. Jennifer helped Emily be happy again. She helped me become a better father. If you can't see that, that's your problem. Emily, who had been listening to the argument from her room, started crying. Why are you fighting? Everyone turned to the little girl who was standing in the doorway. Grandma, why don't you like Aunt Jennifer? Emily asked through tears. Mrs. Catherine knelt in front of her granddaughter. Sweetheart, it's not that I don't like her. Yes, it is. You said she has ulterior motives. I know what that means. That's mean. Emily, Aunt Jennifer took care of me when I was sad. She taught Daddy how to play with me. She's our family. Mrs. Catherine looked at Emily, then at Richard and Jennifer. For the first time, she noticed how different Emily seemed. Happier, more confident, more alive than she'd been since the accident. Emily, do you really consider Jennifer family? Yes, I do. She takes care of me like Mommy would. The mention of Sarah made Mrs. Catherine reconsider. She had always criticized Richard for not taking care of Emily emotionally. Now she saw that he had found help, and Emily was visibly better. Jennifer, Mrs. Catherine said, her voice softer, may I speak with you for a moment? Jennifer agreed, though she was hurt by the accusations. I want to apologize, Mrs. Catherine said when they were alone. I was unfair to you. Mrs. Catherine, let me finish. Ever since Sarah left, I've been constantly worried about Emily. Richard was so lost in his own grief that he could barely take care of her properly. When I heard a nurse was getting too close, I feared someone might be taking advantage of the situation. I understand your concern, but seeing Emily today, seeing how happy and confident she is, it's clear you've been a blessing in her life. Jennifer felt her eyes well up. Emily is a special girl. Anyone would grow attached to her. And you lost a daughter too, didn't you? Jennifer nodded, surprised Richard had told her. So you understand the pain of losing someone we love. And you also understand the importance of caring for the children who are still here. I do. I want you to know you have my approval and my support. Emily needed you, and Richard did too. When they returned to the room, Emily was telling Richard about a drawing she had made. Grandma, Emily called. Do you want to see my drawing? Of course, sweetheart. Emily showed a drawing with 4 figures, her in a wheelchair, Richard, Jennifer, and a woman who seemed to be in the sky. This is our family, Emily explained. Me, Daddy, Aunt Jennifer, and Mommy watching over us from above. Mrs. Catherine felt her eyes fill with tears. It's a beautiful drawing, Emily. Aunt Jennifer taught me that families aren't just people who share the same blood. They're people who love and take care of each other. Mrs. Catherine looked at Jennifer with newfound respect. She taught well. From that day on, Mrs. Catherine became an ally. She began visiting Emily more often and even developed a friendship with Jennifer. The two women united in their care and love for Emily. Months passed, and Emily continued to progress, both emotionally and physically. She could stand for longer periods and even take a few steps with much support. But most importantly was her evident happiness. Richard had become the father Emily had always needed. He actively participated in her routine, knew her likes, her hopes, and her fears. He learned to value every small progress and to celebrate who Emily was, regardless of her physical limitations. Jennifer had found a new family and a new purpose. Caring for Emily helped her process her own loss and find meaning in her work again. She became not just Emily's nurse, but a second mother, a mentor, and a friend. On a sunny December afternoon, Richard made a decision he had been planning for weeks. He called Jennifer for a private conversation. "Jennifer, I need to ask you something important." "Of course, Richard. What is it?" "How would you feel about leaving the hospital?" Jennifer grew worried. "Do you want me to stop caring for Emily?" "No, quite the opposite. I want you to come work exclusively for our family. Emily will be discharged soon, and when that happens, we want you to stay with us." "Richard, that's very generous, but..." "It's not generosity, it's necessity. Emily needs you, I need you, you're part of our family." Jennifer felt her heart race. "But what about the other patients at the hospital? You've already done so much for them, teaching other nurses your techniques. Now it's time for you to dedicate yourself fully to us." Jennifer thought for a moment. The idea of leaving the hospital scared her, but the possibility of continuing to care for Emily every day moved her. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, but Emily already said if you don't come with us, she doesn't want to leave the hospital." Jennifer laughed. "Did she really say that?" "She did, and I agree with her." That night, Jennifer talked to Emily about the offer. "Aunt Jennifer, are you going to live with us?" "Not in the same house, Emily, but I'll take care of you every day when you leave the hospital." "Does that mean we'll be together forever?" "If you want, yes." Emily clapped her hands. "I want to. Then you can teach me more stories and more songs. And you can help Daddy when he forgets how to make funny faces." Jennifer laughed. "Your daddy is getting better and better at making funny faces." "It's true. He's learned a lot from you. And I've learned a lot from you too." At the end of December, Emily was discharged from the hospital. It was a day of celebration for the entire medical team who had followed her progress over the past months. Richard had prepared the house to welcome Emily properly. He installed ramps, adapted the bathroom, and bought a special hospital bed. But he also prepared a special room for Jennifer, who had agreed to work exclusively for the family. "Welcome to our home," Richard said when they arrived. Emily looked around in awe. "It's all so beautiful. And look, Aunt Jennifer, your room is next to mine. That way, I can take care of you if you need anything at night," Jennifer explained. Life at home was very different from the hospital, but Jennifer adapted quickly. She accompanied Emily to physical therapy sessions, doctor's appointments, and daily activities. But she also had time for simple, important things: playing in the garden, watching movies, teaching Emily how to cook simple meals from her wheelchair. Richard was actively involved in everything. He had rearranged his schedule to be present for the important moments. He cut back on work trips and delegated more responsibilities to spend time with his family. "Daddy," Emily said one afternoon as they baked cookies in the kitchen, "you seem so much happier now." "I really am, Princess. And you?" "I'm super happy. Our family is perfect." "Perfect how?" "There's love, there's affection, there's playtime, there's stories, and there's cookies." Emily laughed. Richard and Jennifer exchanged glances and smiled. Both reflected on the journey they'd taken to reach that moment. One January evening, while Emily slept, Richard and Jennifer talked in the garden. "Do you ever regret it?" Richard asked. "Regret what?" "Leaving the hospital to take care of us." Jennifer smiled. "Never. It's the best decision I've ever made. Even with all the problems we caused at the beginning, especially because of the problems they brought us here." Richard grew thoughtful. "Jennifer, can I confess something?" "Of course." "When I saw you hugging Emily that first day, I felt jealous." "Jealous? You could make my daughter smile in a way I hadn't managed in 2 years. It made me feel like a failure as a father." "Richard, but now I understand. You weren't taking my place. You were showing me how to reclaim it." Jennifer's eyes welled up. Emily was always your daughter. I just helped you reconnect. You did so much more than that. You taught us how to be a family again. They fell silent for a moment, gazing at the stars. Richard, can I confess something too? Of course. When I met Emily, it felt like Madison had sent me a gift, a chance to be a mother again, in a different way. And how do you feel now? Like I'm a mother to two special girls. One who watches over me from above and another who lets me care for her here. Richard smiled. Emily was so lucky to find you. We were all lucky to find each other. In March, Emily turned 9. Richard threw a special party at home, inviting everyone who had been important in her recovery. Doctors, physical therapists, nurses from Mercy General Hospital, and of course, Mrs. Catherine. Make a wish, Princess, Richard said, as Emily prepared to blow out the candles. She closed her eyes, made her silent wish, then blew them all out at once. What did you wish for? Jennifer asked. For our family to stay together forever, Emily replied. That's a wish that will definitely come true, Richard said, hugging the two most important women in his life. The party was a success. Emily received many gifts, but the one that moved her most was a photo album Jennifer had prepared, documenting their story from their first meeting at the hospital to that very moment. Look, Daddy, Emily excitedly showed the photos. This is when you still didn't know how to play with me. Richard laughed at a photo where he clearly looked uncomfortable beside Emily's wheelchair. And this is when you learned to tell stories like Aunt Jennifer. And here's our first picnic in the hospital garden, Jennifer recalled. I'm so glad we took all these pictures, Emily said. Now I can show everyone how we became a family. Mrs. Catherine approached with tears in her eyes. Emily, can I see the album? Emily showed her grandmother each photo, explaining the story behind them. Mrs. Catherine was deeply moved by their transformation. Jennifer, she said when they were alone, thank you for bringing my granddaughter back. Emily was always here, Mrs. Catherine. She just needed love and patience. And you brought Richard back too. He's a completely different father now. Richard was always a loving father. He was just lost in his own pain. You have a gift for seeing the best in people, Jennifer smiled. Emily taught me that. Children have this ability to show us what really matters. The party went on until late at night. When everyone had left, Richard, Jennifer, and Emily sat in the living room to talk about the day. This was the best birthday of my life, said Emily. Why? Asked Richard. Because everyone I love was here, and because I could show everyone how special our family is. Our family really is special, Jennifer agreed. Aunt Jennifer, Emily said, growing more serious. Can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. Do you miss Olivia? The question caught Jennifer by surprise. Emily rarely talked about Olivia. I do, Emily. Every day. But you're not sad all the time. No. Do you know why? Emily shook her head. Because taking care of you reminds me of all the good things I shared with Olivia. Every smile of yours, every story we tell, every hug we share. All of it makes me feel like Olivia is still present in my life, through the love I share with you. Emily thought for a moment. Is it like Mommy with Daddy? What do you mean? Daddy misses Mommy, but when he plays with me and tells stories about her, he feels happy instead of sad. Richard was moved by Emily's insightful observation. That's exactly right, Princess, he said. Your mother lives on in all the happy moments we share together. So Olivia is still alive when Aunt Jennifer and I play together? Absolutely, Jennifer replied, hugging Emily. That's good. That way our family has 4 people, even if 2 are in heaven. Richard and Jennifer exchanged glances, touched by the little girl's wisdom. Over the months, the family's routine settled completely. Emily continued making progress in physical therapy and managed to take a few steps on her own with the help of walkers. But what mattered most was her emotional stability and constant happiness. Richard had become a more balanced businessman, able to harmonize work and family life. He discovered that being present in Emily's life made him more creative and productive at work too. Jennifer flourished in her role as the family caregiver. She developed her own caregiving method, combining medical aspects with emotional support, always respecting Emily's individuality and wishes. One day in June, Emily made a surprising proposal. "Daddy, Aunt Jennifer, can I tell you an idea I had?" "Of course, Princess. What's your idea?" "Remember how hard it was for Daddy to learn how to take care of me at first?" "I do," Richard replied. "And how Aunt Jennifer had to teach him so many things." "Yes, I did," Jennifer agreed. "So I thought, if it was hard for Daddy, who's really smart, it must be hard for other parents too." Richard and Jennifer were curious where Emily was going with this. "What if we made a school to teach parents how to take care of kids in wheelchairs?" Emily's idea left the two adults amazed. It was a simple but very smart proposal. "Emily, that's a wonderful idea," Jennifer said. "It really is," Richard agreed. "How did you think of it?" "When I go to physical therapy, I see other parents who look lost like Daddy was. They just watch from a distance, not knowing how to help. And you think we could teach them?" "I do. Daddy could tell them how it was before and how it is now. Aunt Jennifer could teach them games and care tips, and I could talk about how kids feel." Richard and Jennifer fell silent, processing Emily's proposal. "You know what I think?" Richard finally said. "I think you just came up with an idea that could help a lot of families." "Really? Really? How about we talk about this more calmly? Maybe we can actually create something like this." Emily clapped her hands excitedly. "We can call it the Special Family Project." In the following weeks, Richard, Jennifer, and Emily developed Emily's idea. They realized there was indeed a lack of emotional and practical support for families dealing with childhood physical disabilities. Richard used his connections to research similar programs and discovered there were very few initiatives of this kind in the US. Jennifer contributed her technical knowledge about care and therapies, and Emily participated by sharing ideas about what children would like to learn and do. "We can organize workshops with adapted games," Emily suggested during one of their family meetings. "Great idea," said Jennifer, "and we can also teach exercises families can do at home. Maybe even discussion groups where parents can share experiences," Richard added. The idea gradually took shape. Richard decided to invest some of his personal resources into the project. Jennifer volunteered to develop the technical curriculum, and Emily insisted on being the official ambassador of the project. "But Emily," said Richard, "being an ambassador is a big responsibility. You'd have to talk to many strangers." "I'm not scared," Emily replied. "If I can help other kids be as happy as I am, it's worth it." In September, they found the perfect location for the project, an old but well-maintained building in Brooklyn Heights, with good accessibility and spacious areas for activities. "It's perfect," Emily exclaimed when they visited the place. "There's a garden for picnics, big rooms for games, and even a kitchen to teach adapted recipes." Richard signed the lease the same day. Renovations began to further adapt the space and create a welcoming environment for families. Jennifer took charge of recruiting other professionals for the team: physical therapists, psychologists, occupational therapists, and nurses. Everyone was carefully selected, not just for their technical skills, but especially for their sensitivity in working with vulnerable families. "We need people who understand that every family is unique," Jennifer explained during interviews. "We don't want to apply standardized methods, but to embrace each individual story." Richard handled the legal and administrative aspects, creating a foundation to support the project. He also used his business connections to secure donations and partnerships. Emily actively participated in all decisions. She tested the adapted toys, gave input on the decor, and even helped choose the wall colors. "This blue is really pretty," Emily said, looking at a paint sample. "It reminds me of Aunt Jennifer's uniform when we first met." By November, 3 months after Emily had the idea, the Special Family Project was ready to launch. Richard organized an opening event, inviting doctors, therapists, families, and local press. "I'm nervous," Emily confessed on the morning of the launch. "Why, sweetheart?" Jennifer asked. "What if people don't like the idea? What if I say something wrong?" Richard knelt beside Emily's wheelchair. "Princess, remember what you taught me about trying to be better the next day?" Emily nodded. Then just do your best today. If anything goes wrong, we'll learn and improve tomorrow. And remember, this idea came from your heart, Jennifer added. When we speak from the heart, we always say the right thing. The launch was an absolute success. Emily introduced herself as the project's ambassador, with a confidence that even surprised Richard and Jennifer. She shared her story simply and movingly, explaining how she had learned to be happy even while in a wheelchair. "My daddy needed to learn that a wheelchair isn't something sad," said Emily to the audience. "It's just a different way of moving. And Aunt Jennifer taught him that what matters isn't how you move, but where you want to go." The audience was moved by Emily's words. Many parents present related to Richard Anderson's story and showed interest in joining the programs. "How much does it cost to participate?" asked one mother during the event. "Nothing," Richard replied. "Everything is free. Our goal is to help, not to profit." "But how will you keep this running?" "With donations, partnerships, and lots of love," Emily answered, drawing laughter and applause from the crowd. In its first few months, the project served 15 families. Each arrived with their own unique circumstances, fears, and hopes. The team, led by Jennifer, welcomed each family with personalized care. Richard actively participated in the activities, sharing his experience as a father and showing that transformation was possible. His story inspired other fathers who also felt lost. Emily was undoubtedly the star of the project. She talked to the other children as equals, teaching games, telling jokes, and showing that disability wasn't a barrier to happiness. "Emily," said a 6-year-old girl during a workshop, "don't you feel sad that you can't run?" "Sometimes I do," Emily answered honestly. "But then I think about all the cool things I can do. I can race in my wheelchair, I can play basketball sitting down, I can even dance in my chair." "Dance in your chair? How?" Emily began moving her arms and wheeling her chair to the rhythm of an imaginary song, making the girl laugh and try to imitate her. Moments like this happened daily in the project, creating an environment of mutual learning and collective triumph. By December, nearly a year after Emily had been discharged from Mercy General Hospital, the Special Family Project had served over 50 families. Its success was so great that other cities expressed interest in replicating the model. "Daddy," Emily said one afternoon as they organized materials at the project, "I think we did it." "Did what, Princess?" "Turned our sad story into a happy one that helps other people." Richard paused what he was doing and looked at Emily, then at Jennifer, who was organizing books on a nearby shelf. "You're right, Emily. We really did." "And you know what's even cooler?" Emily continued. "What?" "Now I understand why Aunt Jennifer came into our lives." "Why?" "Because she didn't just come to help us. She came so we could help other people together, like a special mission." Jennifer, having overheard the conversation, walked over. "Emily, do you think our story is a special mission?" "I do. Olivia and Mommy must be so proud of us from heaven." Richard felt his eyes grow damp. "I'm sure they are, Princess. And are you proud of me?" "So proud," Richard and Jennifer answered in unison. Emily beamed. "Then our special family did something really important. We turned pain into love and helped other families do the same." That evening, the three had dinner at home, talking about all the families they'd met through the project. Each story moved them and motivated them to keep working. "Remember the Wilson family?" Jennifer commented. "David couldn't even look at his son in the wheelchair when he first came here. Now he's one of the most involved dads in the workshops." "And Amanda, who thought she'd never see her daughter smile again," Richard added. "Yesterday she told me Madison is taking adaptive painting classes." "It's amazing how people can change when they receive the right support and guidance," Jennifer reflected. Emily listened carefully. "Aunt Jennifer, why do some parents feel lost when their children become different?" Jennifer thought carefully about her answer. "Because when something unexpected happens to someone we love, first, we feel afraid. Afraid we won't know how to care for them properly. Afraid we'll do something wrong. Afraid the person we love will suffer." "Like Daddy was afraid of me?" Richard nodded. "Exactly, Princess. I was so afraid of hurting you even more, of not being able to make you happy." But why didn't you understand I was still the same Emily? Because when we're afraid, sometimes we can't see things clearly, Jennifer explained. It's like when it's very dark and we can't see that the path is still there, and the project is like a flashlight? Exactly, Richard exclaimed. The project lights the way for families. Emily smiled, pleased with the comparison. So we're makers of special flashlights. Everyone laughed at Emily's creative description. In January of the second year, the project received a special visit. The city's Department of Health sent a team to evaluate the work and consider the possibility of official support. It's impressive what you've managed to create here, commented the department's coordinator after touring all the facilities. The credit goes to the whole team, Richard replied, and especially to the families who trust our work. And to Emily too, added one of the children participating in the activities. She's the one who had the idea. Emily blushed but smiled proudly. The coordinator spoke at length with several families involved in the project. All reported significant improvements in their quality of life and family dynamics. Would you be willing to expand the project? The coordinator asked at the end of the visit. Richard, Jennifer, and Emily exchanged glances. Expand how? Emily asked. There are other neighborhoods in the city that could benefit from work like this. The city would be interested in supporting new locations. The proposal was tempting but also daunting. It would mean very rapid growth for the project. Can we think about it? Jennifer asked. Of course, there's no rush. But know that your work is being recognized and could have an even greater impact. After the department team left, the three gathered to discuss the proposal. What do you think? Richard asked. It's an incredible opportunity to help more families, Jennifer said. But it would also be a lot of work, Emily considered, and we're still learning how to do everything right here. Richard smiled at Emily's wisdom. You're right, Princess. Maybe it's better to do really well here first before thinking about growing. Exactly, Jennifer agreed. Quality is more important than quantity. But if one day we become experts here, can we think about more projects? Emily asked. Yes, Richard replied. When we're ready. Deal. First, we'll be the best flashlight makers at this location. The following months were spent consolidating and improving. The team constantly developed new activities and approaches. Jennifer created a best practices manual that began being used as a reference by other professionals. Richard discovered a passion he never knew he had, giving talks to other business leaders about social responsibility and inclusion. He shared his personal story to inspire other executives about the importance of supporting social projects. Emily remained the heart of the project. She had created a program called Special Friend, where children who were already well-adjusted helped newcomers feel welcome. Emily, one mother said during an activity, my daughter came here very sad, and now she won't stop talking about the project. What did you do with her? I just showed that being in a wheelchair can be fun, Emily replied, and that having special friends like us is really cool. In May, Emily turned 10. The birthday party was held at the project itself with all the participating families. It was a celebration not just of Emily's life, but of everything they had built together. Hey everyone, Emily said during her birthday speech. When I was little, you're still little, shouted one of the kids, making everyone laugh. Okay, when I was even littler, Emily corrected, giggling. I thought my life was over because of the wheelchair. The audience fell silent, listening intently. But now I know my life didn't end. It just became different, and different can be more special than normal. Warm applause filled the room. And you know how I figured that out, Emily continued, because if I were a normal girl, maybe I never would have met all of you, the most special people in the world. Many adults were moved by her words. Richard and Jennifer exchanged a proud glance. So thank you to everyone who's part of our big special family, and congrats to us for being so brave. The party went on late into the evening with adapted games, performances by the kids, and plenty of delicious food prepared by the families themselves. Mrs. Catherine, who had become a dedicated volunteer at the project, approached Richard and Jennifer as the celebration wound down. Did you see how Emily spoke today? She said proudly. She's growing wiser every day, Richard agreed. And more insightful, Jennifer added. The things she says amaze me. It's because she's found her purpose, Mrs. Catherine said, just like the two of you. Richard looked around, watching the families chatting happily, the children playing together, and the staff caring for everyone with such warmth. You're right, he said. We've found our purpose. The end of the story. And so, what began with a glance through a hospital window became a journey of healing, love, and purpose. Richard learned that being a father wasn't just about providing, it was about being present and loving unconditionally. Jennifer discovered her pain could be transformed into a life mission, and Emily showed the world that physical limitations don't limit the power to inspire and change lives. The Special Family Project kept growing, not in size, but in depth and impact. Every family it served became a beacon of hope, spreading the message to their communities that true love knows no barriers. And you who followed this story to the end, what did you think of this journey of resilience? Have you experienced something similar in your family, or do you know someone who might be inspired by it? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more heartwarming stories like this one.